Both President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un have landed here in Singapore. This has not happened before with a sitting U.S. president, and of course the stakes are enormous. Kim Jong Un arriving with his entourage of aides and bodyguards. President Trump arriving a few hours later. Their hotels here are just about a half-mile apart. This has been a roller coaster for so many of you back home to witness and for the world to witness. Kim Jong Un and his missile tests and the test of that hydrogen bomb. President Trump threatening fire and fury, calling Kim Jong Un Little Rocket Man. But in just a little more than 24 hours from now, they will meet face to face. ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl here in Singapore leading us off.
President Trump says he's been preparing for this moment his entire life. As he landed in Singapore, he sounded confident.
How are you feeling about the summit?
Is it going to be a success?
5 hours earlier, an Air China jet touched down here carrying Kim Jong Un. It's only the third time the North Korean leader has traveled outside his isolated country since taking power. Traveling with him, his sister, who has assumed a more prominent role in the run-up to the summit. On the streets of Singapore, hundreds turned out to watch the North Korean motorcade drive by. Kim's personal bodyguards running alongside his limousine. Later, the reclusive dictator thanked Singapore's prime minister for his, quote, sincere efforts for the summit. If the summit proves successful, Kim declared, the name of Singapore will go down in history. The eyes of the world are now on the 36-year-old dictator. His new shift to diplomacy comes after a year of escalating provocations. He has tested a hydrogen bomb and more missiles than both his father and grandfather combined, including at least one capable of reaching the United States.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
Threats and the name-calling have gone both ways. Kim has called Trump a mentally deranged dotard and an old lunatic. Trump has called Kim a maniac, a madman, and a sick puppy.
They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
But now President Trump calls the summit a one-time shot to make peace.
I feel that Kim Jong Un wants to do something great for his people, and he has that opportunity, and he won't have that opportunity again. It's never going to be there again.
He says he'll know immediately if Kim is serious.
And how long will it take? I think within the first minute, I'll know.
How?
Just my touch, my feel. That's what I do. I think I'll know pretty quickly whether or not, in my opinion, something positive will happen. And if I think it won't happen, I'm not going to waste my time. I don't want to waste his time.
And John Karl joins us live here in Singapore tonight. John, we just heard the president say there that he will know in 1 minute if Kim Jong Un is serious about denuclearization. But we've been listening to the president closely in recent days. He's also tried to lower expectations somewhat, describing the summit now as really just a first step.
He's really done both, raised expectations and lowered expectations. He's called it the one shot for peace and just a first step. This first handshake, David, between President Trump and Kim Jong Un will be a carefully choreographed event, the two men coming together before the cameras. They will have two meetings. The first one, a very small group of people, just the president, Kim Jong Un, their translators, and at the very most, one more on the American side, Secretary Pompeo. David?
We know their every step as they approach one another will be planned in the coming hours. John Karl leading us off tonight.
President Trump is there right now, of course, preparing for his historic meeting, the first sitting American president to meet with the North Korean leader.
And earlier this morning, President Trump met with the Prime Minister of Singapore, and George is there leading our coverage of it all. Good morning again, George.
Good morning, guys. As Robin just said, we're about 12 hours ahead of New York right here, and just about 12 hours ahead of that face-to-face meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong Un. And when the president sits down with Kim Jong Un, he is going to be face-to-face with one of the world's most mysterious and brutal dictators, ruling one of the world's most isolated countries. And few Western journalists know North Korea better than our Bob Woodruff. He's traveled there several times, and he joins us from South Korea this morning with a closer look at the Hermit Kingdom. Good morning, Bob.
Well, good morning, George. Yes, this summit will certainly make some history, and hopefully it will begin this process of dismantling North Korea's weapons. But President Trump has given no indication yet that he will confront Kim Jong Un about human rights. In an unprecedented journey, North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un touching down in Singapore, over 3,000 miles from his reclusive homeland. His country shrouded in secrecy, his regime so brutal, Americans travel there at their own risk. 22-year-old American student Otto Warmbier was on a guided tour trip when he was accused of stealing a propaganda poster at his hotel in 2016.
I have made the worst mistake of my life.
Sentenced to 15 years hard labor, he served 18 months before being released back to the U.S. in a coma, eventually dying from unexplained injuries. But it's not just foreigners. Experts say Kim Jong Un also terrorizes his own people. The United Nations, in a 2015 report, warning the regime uses access to food as an important means to enforce political loyalty. The report also describing the horror inside its infamous prison camps, saying they are rampant with torture, rape, and executions. Over the years, we've been granted rare access inside North Korea. Their citizens taught obedience early on, school children singing songs of praise of their leader. That loyalty also visible at the traditional boot-stepping parade and its mass games. But despite the spectacle, the North is also desperately poor. Its electric grid so weak, this satellite photo shows the lights turn off at night, the country shrouded in almost total darkness. And Kim Jong Un himself, until recently, a figure of mystery. One of the only Americans to ever met him face-to-face, NBA Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman, who traveled to North Korea multiple times. The last time they hugged and talked about basketball and music.
All right, man. Good to see you.
But when I sat down with Rodman this past January, he told me they never discussed brutality and torture.
It's a country with a lot of starvation, though, too, though. Is that okay?
Well, you know, a lot of people in the world are starving. Even though they say he's a bad man, but to me, he's not a bad man. To me, I didn't see that part.
Now, Rodman said on his Instagram that he will be coming to Singapore this week. President Trump says he was not invited by him to the summit, but Rodman's agent confirmed to us that he is coming, although no one has seen him yet. George?
We'll keep an eye out for it. Okay, Bob, thanks very much. And guys, it's kind of amazing to think about. Until these last couple of meetings between Kim Jong Un and the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, probably no American knew Kim Jong Un better than Dennis Rodman.
That is something to think about. But what we discuss in the summit, especially, George, after seeing Bob's report, very good report about what life is like for most people there in North Korea, will that be a part of the topic of the summit, how he treats his own people there in his country?
You know, Robin, that's an excellent question, and I think no one knows for sure. The president's team have said they're going to bring it up. How much they'll press it yet is anyone's guess, because the top goal here is talking about that nuclear program, getting Kim Jong Un to commit to giving up that nuclear program, not only the nukes, though, but also chemical and biological weapons. Those are the top concerns. Hard to imagine that the White House and President Trump will completely ignore, though, the situation inside North Korea.
Yeah, we hope not. Okay, we'll get back to you, George.